Alrighty, folks. Hey, welcome back to the Real Men of Real Estate radio show here on KCAA. Patrick Franz, the Note Mentor. I am your host, and I am back with my guest who's going to introduce herself here in just a few short seconds, but her name is Bethany Humpries. She's the owner of ACI Legacy Group. See, ACI Legacy Group is a due diligence company. And I got to tell you something, folks. To have your due diligence done by experts is having somebody else do your dirty work. And I call it dirty work because it is tough stuff, folks. It's time consuming. It's frustrating. And if you don't do it right, it can cause you some harm, right? It may end up losing you money. Now, I had Bethany on this radio show one time in the past. And as I mentioned, I don't like to bring the same guest on multiple times, but I'm doing it today. And there's a good reason why. Last time Bethany was on our show, her company had been hired and had been working for some professional note investors. I think she even did some work for a note investing fund. And, after a while, I believe Bethany figured that, more people could use her services. There's tons of investors out there, especially in the note investing world, that could use a hand, that could use an expert to help them dig through the tedious due diligence process and make sure that they're going to be making the right purchase. So Bethany, I'm so happy to have you on the show, and go ahead, introduce yourself, Bethany, to the audience, and just let them know why you think due diligence is so important.
Well, thank you for having me on here again today. I'm happy to be back on here. And my name is Bethany Humpries. My company is ACI Legacy Group. And we do currently do services, our due diligence services for a private equity fund. And up until now, we've been pretty exclusive, just kind of keeping our services in-house. And for a while, ACI, we were purchasing stuff for our own portfolio. And so all of the due diligence that we do has really just been in-house, JV partnerships that we've been in, and, as of now, this private equity fund. But due diligence, to answer your question, obviously in any investment and really in anything that you do when it comes to making a big decision, due diligence is extremely important and very vital to analyze what it is you're going to be getting yourself into. But in particular with note investing, there's a lot that you need to look out for that could impact not only your investment, possibly losing money, but also that could impact your position as the lender. And so really that's why I tell people due diligence truly is the most important aspect, and it shouldn't be overlooked. It's simple, but it is detailed. And there's a lot that you need to look out for to ensure your security in that investment.
Talk about a lot. I mean, I remember when I first started working with you, years back. And I remember it was like, I remember your company, you guys had like a 25-point checklist or something like that. And this was like a list of things that you were going to make sure that you didn't leave that stone unturned, because those were things that were so important to take a real strong look at to make sure your due diligence was done properly. And I don't even know the number anymore. I've heard rumors, but you've expanded this 25-point checklist into some checklist that is audacious in number, right? So what's your due diligence checklist look like right now, just by number?
I'd have to say it grows all the time. So there's always, not every asset we do due diligence on, we end up buying. And so sometimes we'll run into a situation that we've never run into before. And so that gets added to our list. As of right now, it's over 125. And so it's just 125 plus. That's just really where we're at. Because like I said, there's just things that come up, the unique situations that may be a one-time thing or maybe happen a handful of times, but could be detrimental. And so our list is very detailed and it is very elaborate, but it's very thorough to where I truly feel that our investments are secure when we move forward with them.
Yeah. Let me just make it real obvious to you guys, folks that are listening. They went from a 25-point checklist to a 120-point checklist. So let me just make that make sense to you. So Bethany, am I right to say that when you, and I know you on some notes, you don't use all the points on the checklist, but basically when you're going to do due diligence full through on a note investment, there's literally, you have a piece of paper next to you. It's got 120 items on there with check boxes next to them. And you're trying to go down and check all 120 items to make sure, again, you didn't leave any stone unturned. And let me tell you something, folks, this is why I call it the dirty work. Okay. Whoever wants to sit and go through 120 different points, different subjects that you have to look up and study and make sure are in line with your investment, is really the dirty work. It takes forever. It takes a long time. It's very time consuming. It's very frustrating. And the experience is why Bethany's company has expanded their list from 25 points up to 120 points, because over the years, her team's probably looked at 10,000, 20,000 different note opportunities. And to comb through those and to put some through this 120 point checklist, folks, I'm going to tell you something right now. I don't want to do it. You probably don't want to do it. And you're going to need somebody like ACI Legacy Group. But, you know, it would be crazy. We'd just blow your mind if we started to get into what all those points are on the 120 point checklist. But if we were going to slim that whole big checklist down to, like, say, 3 of the major big things that you're really doing research on, what would those be?
Well, I would have to say, there are primary categories, and then obviously within those categories, that's where the checklists really come into play. Number one, for any type of mortgage note that you're buying, it's going to be the collateral. So as you mentioned, when you're buying and investing in mortgage notes, you are taking the position of the bank. So whatever terms are in that note and in that mortgage, you need to understand fully, because you're going to be stepping into those shoes. And so the collateral would be the number one piece that you want to make sure you fully understand, even if you have to get an attorney to read through it with you, because you don't want to overlook anything. You don't want to agree to anything that is something you wouldn't want to have as an investment in your portfolio. So certainly collateral would be number one. I would also say that looking into the homeowner, the borrower, is going to be vital, because obviously they're going to be the person that's going to be paying you. So it's going to be really important that you understand who they are. Of course, in this position, it's sometimes tough to really get down and be specific on the borrower. But what's going to be most important is understanding, how do they pay? How do they perform with their payments? Because again, you're going to be being the lender. Are they going to be someone reliable that you can, get your payments on time? Especially if it's a newer note, it would be important to see if, when the loan was taken out, is there a loan application? Are you able to find out if the borrowers are working? Are they in a position where they can pay you back? So all of that's really important for you to at least have an understanding of the borrower. And then the last piece I'd say would be very important would also be the property itself. So understanding the property value, the condition. Now, I understand when you buy mortgage notes, you're not buying the property. So some people may say, well, what's the matter with the property looks like? Well, just because you're buying a mortgage note that's paying on time doesn't mean that one day it might not anymore, right? I mean, things happen, people lose their jobs, people get divorced, life happens. And so you may be put in a position that you may have to follow through with a foreclosure and get that property back. And so it is important for you to be aware of the value, the condition, so that way it's in a position that you are comfortable with as a investor, and something you would want to have in your portfolio and potentially own in the event the borrowers do stop paying you.
You heard it right here, folks. I mean, there's going to be 3 main things that you're really looking at. At a high level, you're looking at the collateral file, which Bethany was talking about, is just a giant packet of paperwork that they send you when you buy a note. Because remember, we're in the paper business, guys. And so when you purchase this, you're buying this packet full of paper. It's called the collateral file. And that is important. That's what you're buying, right? If you don't want to buy a rental house that's missing a wall. Okay. And you don't want to buy a note that's missing an important document either. Okay. So the collateral file is one thing. Number 2, Bethany, you mentioned, was the borrower, and you're judging their character, right? Because that's the person who's paying you back the debt. And, we don't necessarily check a FICO score, but we certainly want to look at their pay history from the last person that owned that mortgage note. And they'll be able to tell you if they've paid well or not. The
Right.
other is the actual physical property, because it does act as your collateral. And so wouldn't you like to know the value and the condition of your collateral? Of course you would. And folks, she's broken that, her and her team have broken that down into a 120 point checklist in making sure that they leave no stone unturned when it comes to due diligence. And the slightest little thing that you may miss or overlook, Bethany, can be destructive to your investment, can't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, these are just the three primary areas that you want to look at. There's certainly a lot more, that needs to be put in, but these are the primary areas that, I'd say you want to make sure you look out for.
Now, crazy question. I know you have a team of individuals, right? With your business, you've built a great team, and you have people in great places in your business that can help you get things done quickly and efficiently. Now, let's just say somebody, an individual, wanted to try to do what you guys do and do full due diligence on a note all the way through, let's say 120 point checklist and all that. Just give me a quick idea how much time is really put into that. I mean, one note, someone's going to spend how many hours at their computer making phone calls, doing research, ordering title reports, and these things. How much time is involved in just one note?
I mean, truly, it can vary on the quality of the asset, of course, but I would say, it takes hours. It takes hours because there are phone calls that need to be made. And a lot of the time you are put in circles. A lot of these reports and things that we get are really detailed, that do require some expertise also, but also just a lot of time to make sure you don't overlook anything and that you truly understand what it is that you are analyzing.
That's
so
right.
So it takes hours.
That's hours, folks, hours. And trust me, it is tedious hours. It is tedious hours. And so to have somebody like ACI Legacy Group and Bethany Humpries and her team to help you do this dirty work is super important. And let me tell you, we're going to be right back after this break, folks. Don't go anywhere, because Bethany's going to come back and we're going to hear how ACI got started and what they're going to offer out to the public, where they can help folks like me and folks like you save hours and hours of time and frustration in doing this dirty work. So don't go anywhere, folks. We're going to be right back in a few moments right here on KCAA Radio.